I want to thank you for watching another segment to the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Thursday, March the 13th, 2014. I want to talk about the latest rumors that have Phil Jackson coming to the New York Knicks. Now, this was a great move by Jim Dolan, in my opinion. There is no guarantee, folks, that Phil Jackson is going to be successful here. But here's what we do know. Something had to be done. Jim Dolan could not continue running the Knicks the way the Knicks was being ran because you was going to lose. And you might still end up losing Carmelo Anthony. Okay? But at least Phil Jackson brings some credibility to the Garden. Something that if you didn't go after Phil, you might not have been able to do. See, at least now you could sell free agents on why coming to New York to play for the Knicks makes sense. Okay? Now you don't have to worry about talking about the city and talking about this and that. You can talk about winning championships or at least playing championship level ball. So to me, this was a move Dolan had to make. Now the question is this a good move by Phil Jackson? Well, like I said, there's no guarantees that he will be successful. But here's what I do know. If you don't take a shot, you cannot be successful. In other words, Wayne Gretzky once said it best. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. To be the best, you got to be willing to take certain risks. And the risk of failure is always a part of the dynamic. If you're not willing to risk failing, you'll never succeed. This is why 90% of the public don't succeed. Not really. You might make good money on your job, but you may not really be successful. Because why? You're not willing, you're not maximizing your capabilities. In other words, you're not willing to take the necessary risks that the normal person is willing, that the greats are willing to take. I'll give you an example. To be a professional basketball player, because we're talking basketball here, you got to put in long hours of practice. Okay? These guys didn't get this good by just occasionally playing pickup basketball. 90% of the public plays pickup basketball. And they think they know something about the game. The really greats putting in normal amount of practice to get to the level that they're in. This is not accidental. Let's look at Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was successful as a player. I mean, he wasn't a superstar or anything like that, but he was a championship level player nonetheless. He was a gritty, hard-nosed type guy. He won a couple of championships with the Knicks. Then he went and he won championships as head coach of both the Bulls, Chicago Bulls, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Folks, the hardest thing to do as a coach is manage egos. Especially when you got a team with a couple of superstars. Because their egos need to be stroked. And you got to know how to properly manage it or you will not be successful. Phil has a way with players that few guys have. Now, is it true that this is Phil Jackson's first go-around as president of basketball operations? Yes. But here's the thing, folks. We need to step back and relax. Let's take a look at Pat Riley. Pat Riley won a championship as a player. He won championships as a head coach. And he ultimately won championships as an executive. Phil Jackson is every bit as good as Pat Riley, if not better. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you or anyone that he's going to win a championship here with the Knicks as president of basketball operations. But you're going to at least try. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, why would you hire a guy when this is not even his, you're not even his first option? Because again, you had to change the course of your direction. So even though, no, New York is not Phil's first option, at this point in his career, it's his best option. And I'm going to get to the Lakers in a minute. But I want to right now focus on why this makes sense for Phil. Now, if this job was offered to him 2 years ago, he doesn't take this job. But the fact that it's offered now makes sense, and here's why. Number one, after next year, Amari Stoudemire's, Bargnani's, and a lot of other players' monies come off the books. That means the Knicks are going to have significant cap money. Okay? And here's another thing bringing in Phil Jackson's going to do. And let's assume he's going to hire a GM, or he's going to hire somebody to run the actual day-to-day operations, but he's going to still oversee it. Gone are the days now of the Knicks just throwing away their draft picks like it's water, just giving it away their draft picks like it's water. Gone are the days now where you can say that the Knicks are saddled with a whole bunch of bad contracts. I think it's safe to say those days are now gone. Again, I'm not promising championships, but at least he offers a bright future compared to what it was looking like before Phil even came on board. Now, until he officially signed, as my dad would say, put his John Hancock on that contract, nothing is ever official. If he doesn't sign that contract by the end of this week, and we're really approaching the end of this week, in other words, if there's not an announcement by early next week that it is official, then I would start worrying that whether he's going to even come here. Because it shouldn't take but so long for this to get done. And if the Knicks feel that he is not really serious about taking this job, then the best thing you can do, pull the offer. Because what you don't want to do is get into a bidding war with LA. Because, yes, there is no secret that Phil desired the LA job. He wants to be president of basketball operations of LA. But Jim Buss would be a fool to give him that position, and here's why. See, Jim Buss only runs the basketball side of operations there with LA. He doesn't run the business side. He's not like James Dolan and a lot of other owners in the NBA who runs the entire organization. Okay? Jim Buss only runs one portion of the organization. And the portion of that organization is right now what's in question. If Jimmy Buss gives that power to Phil Jackson, that makes Jim Buss powerless because his sister, Jim Buss's sister, runs the business side of the Lakers, which means the off the court part of the Lakers. Now, why is this important? Because Phil Jackson is dating Jim Buss's sister. And it's no secret that Phil and Jim doesn't have a great relationship. Phil thinks very little of Jim Buss. So therefore, if he were to acquiesce to the Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryants of the world, and let me get to them in a minute, but if he was to acquiesce to them and give Phil Jackson this position, basically, Jim Buss would be powerless for all intent and purposes. He would have no say. Because why? Jeannie would run the business side, Phil runs on the court side. What does Jim run? And since Jeannie and Phil is dating, and maybe soon to get married, they basically would collude together and basically keep Jim out. And there's nothing Jim can do. Now, you see, Dr. Jerry Buss had the smart foresight to see that this problem could exist. This is why he gave his son, and not Phil, Phil was still, well, he wasn't the coach of the Lakers at the time, but he could have given Phil that title, but there was a reason he didn't. He did not want Phil running the Lakers. It's just that simple. For that matter, he really didn't even want him coaching the Lakers anymore, let alone running the Lakers. That's why they hired D'Antoni. Okay? Now, getting the Magic and Kobe. They were absolutely wrong, and to me, it was despicable what they did. You publicly undermine Jim Buss by saying that he should acquiesce control to Phil Jackson. Now, Magic Johnson's a smart businessman, and he understands what that means. I'm assuming Kobe's a smart businessman. Not that they care, because I know they don't care for Jim Buss anyway, but the reality is this. What they did was more importantly insulting to Mitch Kupchak. Because Mitch Kupchak is currently the GM there in LA. Mitch Kupchak is more than capable of running the organization there in LA, being the decision maker. So here's what I would do if I was Jim Buss, or if I were advising Jim Buss. I would embarrass Kobe and Magic. And the way I would do it in a way by doing it this way. I'm going to come out with and make a statement. And here's the statement I'm going to do. I am going to alleviate the fears of what we call Laker Nation, the fans of the Lakers, and the media. Because right now the perception is Jim Buss is running the Lakers. And the reason that perception is there is because when you fired Mike Brown 5 games into the last season, into this past season, the 2013 season, okay? When you fired Mike Brown 5 games into the season, you went and sat down with Phil Jackson. And when it looked like Phil was going to take that job, you immediately pulled a switcheroo and hired D'Antoni on the spot. You did first of all, you did no kind of real due diligence to see if D'Antoni was a good fit for the roster you had. Because it was apparent that D'Antoni wasn't. Now, we all know that was not Mitch Kupchak's hire. Mitch Kupchak did not hire Mike D'Antoni. Jim Buss, you did. That was a mistake on your part. Because what you did was, you done now told everybody, by that move, you're running things. And when the owner is the one who's making the decisions on the sport, like in other words, in this case, basketball, when the owner is running things, it's not going to go well. That was the problem in New York. It's the same problem in LA. You don't want the owners making the basketball decisions. Mitch Kupchak is more than capable. Let him make the decision who coaches the team. Who you draft, who you cut. Who's on the team, who isn't. Let Mitch Kupchak make that decision. You could just oversee Mitch Kupchak. But let Mitch Kupchak do his job. Because he's the GM. Had you let Mitch Kupchak do the hiring, had you let Mitch Kupchak interview the coaches and hiring, and you stood behind the scenes and didn't do anything, now it makes it look like Mitch Kupchak is in charge. See, right now, if you're running things, this is a problem. We don't want you running things, Jim. This is why they're calling for Phil Jackson. So here's what you should do, or here's what I would do if I was advising you. You come out and you make a press conference. You hold a press conference. And here's what you say to Laker Nation and to the media. I want to come out by declaring what is the chain of command, the power structure as to how the basketball team, the Lakers, is going to be ran. I am the CEO of the basketball side, the president and CEO of the basketball side of operations here. in LA.